This is Independent Voice, and this is Mame. I have today again Mr. Fouad, just having a conversation discussion about a very interesting topic that we all have been thinking and talking about all day today. In the light of the news today, delisting TPLF as a terrorist group, I'm pretty sure a whole lot of us have had a chance to listen to different perspectives. We have our own opinions. I have with me Mr. Fouad to just have a conversation to tell us about his own take. So with that said, Mr. Fouad, welcome again. Thank you so very much. As always, it's an honor to have you here. I know it's a little bit of an evening time for you. I'm so grateful that you are here. So with that said, though, the one question I want to pose to you right now is, given the newest information that we had received since this morning, the government deciding to enforce what was listed as part of the Pretoria Agreement when the peace agreement was signed. One of the stipulations that was included in that has to do with delisting TPLF as a terrorist group. I'm sure, just like everybody else, you have your own opinions, and given your extensive experience as a humanitarian, you have seen war, you've seen the aftermath of war, and how did you take the news? What is your opinion, and how would you address the people that might have different opinions?
Yes, hello, Mame. Happy to be here again. But of course, a little bit disturbed with the news that you just mentioned, but not surprised. I can believe and understand that for many people, whether Ethiopians inside the country, outside the country, or even other populations in the world, mainly Africa, this may come as a surprise. But first, what I would say is that when in May 2021, the government and the parliament had decided to put TPLF on the terrorist list of the nation, it was completely justified, because there was this famous and very sad attack on the Northern Command. They were taken by surprise. What was committed was atrocious, and the whole ignitement of the war was not justified. It was a rebellion act, which was meant to terrorize the nation, terrorize the populations, and it was unconstitutional as well. So starting from there, what we have also to remind ourselves and put it at the center of everything is the so many innocent lives that we have lost. Some are talking about 500,000, 600,000 people who have died, and many millions, maybe 2 million, up to 2 million, from 1 million to 2 million displaced, and who are still suffering of many kind of illnesses, whether it is psychological, physical, financial, heartbroken people who have lost their kids, etc. So that is what we have to put at the center of all our reflection. As you rightly stated, I analyze this from a humanitarian perspective, having been in war-torn areas for many decades. That is heartbreaking and unacceptable, and the whole huge war that was undertaken for 2 consecutive years have also completely depleted the nation, economically speaking. In our reform period of the nation, in the aftermath of the 27 years of reign of the TPLF, I would even qualify it as a reckless reign. The reform is yet in the process, and there are so many challenges that should be undertaken and faced, and very tactically, delicately handled, because we're not yet there. Now, the first step that, okay, was brokered also with the international community, mainly African solutions through Africans, with the leadership of the AU and the help of other international community member states. It was to reach a kind of truce, kind of peace agreement, to first stop the bleeding, the war itself, the destruction, the bleeding, etc. And that was good. Whether it was just or unjust is yet to be analyzed, but it had to stop. So through that peace agreement signed in Pretoria in November, and the continued meeting in Nairobi, there are clauses in the agreement that had to be deployed quickly so that we could reach again the populations, whether in Tigray or Amhara or Afar regions, to appease their major vital needs, medical, food, and care, simply. And the Ethiopian government had steadily and gradually reinstated the communication, the humanitarian aid, drugs and medicines were fueled in there, and things were going steadily but surely. Okay. From what we see, read, and listen, the other party, which is mainly the TPLF, has started also partly to implement some of the clauses of the agreement, not swiftly, not in a complete manner, and there are still major clauses that are vital for the peace to continue that are not yet undertaken as they should have to be. In the meantime, we heard this news on the 22nd of March today that our parliament, by majority vote, had delisted TPLF from the terrorist list of the country. Of course, it can be a big surprise for many of us. For me, reflecting after the whole day of reflection and thinking and trying to understand, what I privilege is when you are in a turmoil like the one we were in, you cannot bring peace or lasting peace through continuous war. The process being slow on the other side in the Tigrayan region, and us trying to showcase our willingness to implement the clauses of the agreement, to quicken a little bit the process of bringing about a lasting peace in the north, that we again sacrifice this act of delisting TPLF from the terrorist list, I'm not surprised, because first it is within the agreement. It is stated within the agreement. It may be too quick as a decision, but it is going towards what we want all, especially for our people. Peace, 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 peace. So past that analysis, we yet have to caution everyone, whether our communities, especially the two parties, the region as well, is that all this is happening while the whole region is not stable right now. You see, we all know the newly ignited war in Somaliland, the upcoming, in any case, the unrest that is unfolding in Kenya. Kenya and Ethiopia are two major economies of the region. The destabilization of these two countries is a big problem for the whole region. Within our own country, we have several challenges, and we're not yet at a completely settled situation. So yes, for the delisting, but then taking into account the regional fragility, the aftermath of this delisting should be a must implementation of the remaining clauses and agreements to first disarm TPLF on a very swift basis. Second, impose the inclusive transitional government setup, because so far that is not the way it is going from what we see from afar. It is also launching very quickly the transitional justice that we were talking about, because as we said earlier, the centrality of the whole problematic is how to bring about peace, healing, reconciliation, dialogue, so that the populations that went through this very sad turmoil be mended in a very serious and caring manner. We need to showcase for the world to see, but especially for our own people, that we do also reckon the heroism of our soldiers who died, and more specifically, remembering heroically and with dignity those who were slaughtered by the TPLF in the Northern Command. We ought to impose also the very concept that we cannot have two armies in one nation. Therefore, ENDF should take over in Tigray and guarantee security and peace for the Tigrayan population, for the Amhara population, for the Afar population. We're not talking about only separately the various communities that were affected. We have to think about them holistically, because as I said earlier, the challenges within the country are not only in the north. So we have many other challenges to overcome. And while I'm saying this, we have also to acknowledge that yes, the peace the peace agreement had stopped the war, meaning had stopped the bleeding. But the next phases, the world, the region, and more especially the Ethiopians are watching and waiting for all this other clauses to be implemented properly. And that is even more reinforced in the aftermath of the visit of the State Secretary for Foreign Affairs of the US, who when he returned back home, made a statement that immediately the government has refuted because it was contrary to what apparently they have discussed. But in any case, it was divisive and ill advised. And if we are capable of saying no to this kind of contradictory statement, then we have also to impose on the other side those clauses that were not properly and yet swiftly implemented to respect the peace agreement. So this would be my first thinking, and yet it is something that is turning in my mind very strongly. I hope that we are not seeing this with a lack of better analysis, but this is what appears in a first analysis basis. I hope to hear soon from the AU Secretary General and what he thinks, because in many newspapers that I read, many countries have praised the decision because it is leading to peace, but they are also warning that the rest of the peace agreement clauses be implemented as swiftly as possible. That is a sine qua non obligation, I think, for our country, but also for the stability of the region. We cannot be more fragile again while the region is being destabilized on the other hand. So that would be my answer to the very difficult question that you asked me.
Difficult indeed. I think it's a difficult question for all of us and not just you. And thank you so much for being, well, brave enough to really answer the question sincerely and from the heart, because I could see that you had thought about it. It's been something that you've been thinking about, because we've had a conversation prior to this interview. Before I interject, I want to take a minute and recognize the fact, one huge fact that you had mentioned, and I want to underline that fact, which is hundreds and hundreds of people have lost their lives. TPLF was the cause for all this atrocity. TPLF has used the children of Tigray to go to war, and those kids are no longer with us. They were very young, and those images are seared in our memories and will remain there for the rest of our lives. The Northern Command that has been violated more than words can describe, rightfully put TPLF where it needed to be, listed as a terrorist group. Now, for the purpose of peace and sustainable peace, one of the things that the agreement came with was delisting TPLF from that list. You had mentioned some pertinent points. If there was an opportunity and autonomy, so to speak, to refute certain things, I guess what we're saying is, or what I hear you say is, the government should use that same autonomy to also refute, not only refute, but demand that certain aspect of the agreement to be completed and be put in place, to use your own words, swiftly. I just wanted to reiterate that it is not, and it will never be the case, that the Northern Command will be forgotten. Their sacrifice will be minimized. That will never be the case. The innocent civilians, women and children that have lost their lives, will never be minimized, including TPLF's own soldiers, the children that they had used, and the children of Tigray. Not only those, but then, you know, when war happens, atrocity comes and goes to neighboring areas. Other people were impacted. I want to really take a moment and reiterate, to underline that we would never forget that. We will never forget places like Maikadra. We will never forget those that have lost their lives directly or indirectly impacted by the war. If the country must move forward and sustain peace, one of the things that it ended up having to deal with as part of this agreement is delisting TPLF from such list. I appreciate the one statement that you've made, which is, if that is the case, for whatever reason, now is the time to do that, then the rest of the stipulation of that agreement must be implemented right away, so that there is no loophole, there is no slippery slope from here for TPLF to do what we all know is capable of doing, which would be undermining the sacrifices of everyone. Again. With that said, just like anybody else, I too think about the what ifs. There will be quite a lot of what ifs and anticipation. I think it is a difficult day for all of us, even though we're saying this is something that must be done. To me, at least, it takes us back to where it all started and what it means, and the price of peace. The price of war is not a simple one. The price of peace is even greater. So with that, I would like to leave everybody or our listeners with that thought, and saying the price of war is incredible, but the price of peace is even greater. And thank you for giving us your heartfelt opinion, thought. I know it's coming from your heart, because you are a humanitarian. You've spent your life doing such thing. And if it took me to where it did, I can only imagine where it has taken you to have to listen to what is being said as a person who's seen firsthand the impact and the effect of war. So I really, really want to say thank you so much for your time. I so appreciate it. Hopefully we'll have more chance to unpack some of these things and analyze it even better, and have a better understanding, and keep an eye on it and follow it and see where it goes. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, if I may, just as a concluding remark, and we just leave it there. With such a quick analysis that we went through, people must not be mistaken on the fact that we have also a very good understanding of the New World Order, the games that are at play on the international scene.
Absolutely.
The interests of major powers in that very specific region. And with this kind of fragilities within our country, but also in the region, we could, as you rightly put it towards your final statement, have the what if and see the reverse of what we are wishing to see. You know, what we are wishing is giving priority to peace, because no country, no sovereignty, we're nobody. So yes, we have lost many people. Yes, it is disturbing to hear what we heard today at the beginning. Then we sit down, reflect, we say priority to peace, but also assertiveness in quickly stabilizing the situation as per the agreement, knowing that if we are fragile, others may take advantage in fulfilling their new world order objectives of superpowers playing with proxies. So this is very important for people not to be mistaken. If we privilege this and we talk our heart out, especially feeling for those whom we lost and we don't want to lose more, know as well that we understand the global game in the new world order, and that everyone should be cautious also about that. And with this, I thank you for the opportunity. It was great talking to you again. And as they say in Spanish, hasta luego.
Whatever it means, right? Sayonara.
We'll see soon.
Thank you so much. I agree. I don't think we should be oblivious to the external forces and their agenda. Their investment is going to mean something. It's not easy to invest in something that they had deemed to be of an interest for 27 years, and to just let go and not try to maintain some aspect of it. We are not oblivious to that. Our eyes are on, obviously, Ethiopia. Our eyes are on peace and what we go after and what we strive for and what we look for at the end of the day is for the country to have peace and lasting peace.
You just touched on something very important. For all of us, this current time in which we are is a time where we inherited of a country that was completely depleted of everything. And putting it together again was already difficult, but with the war in the north, it became completely uncontrollable. And now there are many other challenges still, which are coming up based on the 27 years of what was done in a reckless management. And that is also another aspect that we have to be reminded.
Absolutely. As much as we have to be reminded of the external forces, we also have to be reminded of the internal forces. We're not oblivious to those. We're not denying that situations are occurring in the country. We're not denying the fact that things are not as stable as we would like it to be. But once again, I'm going to close today's conversation and saying, eyes on peace, eyes on Ethiopia. As much as we know that the price of war is incredible, but the price of peace is even greater. So thank you so much, and we shall talk again.
Conclusion. Thank you very much. Have a good
Absolutely.
evening.
Thank you so much.